G'day everyone, this is Expand, the Phantom Podcast. Yes, we are a website. Yes, we are, of course, a podcast. And of course, we are a way of life. And you can find us at www.chroniclechamber.com. I am Steve, and today I am joined with Jerm. How you going there, Jerm?
Yeah, good. My last day as my last work day as an official unemployed bum. Go back to work on Monday, and what better way of doing it? Of celebrating the last day of being a bum than talking all things Phantom.
Yeah, so when we say it's not just holidays, you've actually a new job. Is that right, Jerm? New employment?
Yes, new job. So basically had all of December off, which meant I got to go on a few holidays and yeah, have about a month off work and it's all finished. I've got to go back to the real world now.
And you're going to go back nice and refreshed. You're pumped to get back there?
Yeah, very pumped.
Yeah. Excellent. So it's just Jim and myself today. He's still away on holidays, out camping somewhere up in the wild Queensland jungles. Um, and on today's podcast, we'll be trying to wrap up everything that's happened in the fandom world for December 2025 before we start again for 2026, which will be the Phantom's 90th birthday year. Isn't that exciting there, Jim?
It is. It is. I'm quietly optimistic that we might have some exciting things for the 90th anniversary. Quietly optimistic. I'm sure I'll be disappointed, but I'm going to at least start the year optimistic that all the publishers and the owners and all these other people have got their act together. They've got an official 90th logo, which Egmont's not using, so it'll be interesting to see if anyone else is using it. But it will be, yeah, I'm quietly optimistic that it's going to be a good year.
Well, that's good to hear. Good to see you being optimistic, Jim. Glass half full, that type of thing. It's a nice change.
Well, it's while we're talking about December 2025, we are currently in January 2026, but so this, but yeah, let's see how we go. Let's see if there's reason to be remaining optimistic.
Well, I think the year started off well. And you mentioned off air that I'm wearing a new T-shirt. Saturday Morning Cards have brought out a Phantom T-shirt, and I've just happened to be wearing one right now. And from what I hear, it's one of 6 in Australia. So I better make sure I take care of it.
Oh, well done.
Yeah. Okay. So in this podcast, we're reviewing the news and the stories, really, about what's happened in the last month in the world of the Phantom. And as always, we start off with the daily and Sunday stories. Is that correct, Jam?
Yes, that's correct. They are
Right.
worldwide. Worldwide. We are a worldwide podcast, so we start off with what's happening worldwide, and then we kind of go into the different countries and go from there.
Enough of that introduction. Let's get into it. So the first story that we're going to have a look at is the daily story. My mistake there. Daily number 269. The Muckmen of the Zumaridi River. You know how many times I practiced saying that yesterday in preparation for today, and I still stuffed it up. So December on the Zumaridi River opens with 2 more deserters leaving the compound. One meets the Phantom's fist, the other is allowed to run to tell the tale. However, as the Phantom returns to the compound to put the latest Bengalan mercenary in custody, patrolwoman Day Lu Han is already there, identifying herself to the prisoners, much to the surprise of the Phantom. After a little back and forth, Dai Lu Han proves herself to be more than what the mercenaries bargained for, and soon has the situation under control, with a little assist from an unseen unknown commander. That is, of course, until she puts a call through to Colonel Warrabu, who is none too pleased to hear from her at this time. Also, the cook who has been leading the resistance before the Phantom got to the Zumaridi River is on the scene and has taken his 2 assistants to pay General Truma a visit before the Jungle Patrol arrive, or, as he puts it, they're up to their necks in heroes. Can the Phantom get to General Truma and control the situation before the others? We'll just have to see what January brings us. There we go, Jam.
Yeah,
As
look,
he's going through the artwork there. Yeah. What are you about to say, bud?
I must admit, I'm a little bit bored by this story at the moment.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a
Do
little bit
tell.
bored. Like,
Yeah.
I just feel like we're going around in circles a little bit. I don't know. I don't really look. I know Tony DePaul's got something up his sleeve. He usually does, but the patrolman's kind of seen the story be fleshed out another couple of months. Surely by the time the Phantom rang up and said, "Hey, look, they're all in jail. The Bengalian people, they're gonna, you know, turn state's evidence and, you know, it could have just wrapped up then. Now we've got this patrol woman who hasn't really done anything yet. She got into trouble here, which you can see on if you're watching it on YouTube. And then, as you can see here, she smacks the living daylights out of this guy that's twice as big. But I don't know. It's hasn't, in my opinion, at this stage, at the moment, and we're only commenting as we're reading, as we're going month by month. We're not commenting on the whole story. We're going month by month or day by day as originally intended in the story. I don't really know if it's actually added anything to the story and it's just dragged the story out so far. But maybe I'm just
That's an
part of the microwave generation and I can't handle a good story.
You're becoming more TikTok as the days go
Yeah.
by. I'm going to disagree with you, but I will say that I've probably read it in a different way because I've missed the last couple of missed last month's podcast. I probably haven't been quite up to date with my phantoming as I should be. So I spent yesterday doing a lot of phantoming, which included going through the last couple of months of this story, and I thought it flowed really, really well. And I was getting right into it, and the Phantom knocked off these guys, and now we've got the patrolwoman there. Oh yeah, what's she going to do now? I was really intrigued to see what was going to happen next, and I guess the way I was reading it was more like the way you'd read it in a comic book, just flowing from not having to wait another day or getting
Yep.
one hit once a week or something like that. I was reading a good couple of months worth in one hit, and it flowed really, really well. And I didn't mind, fleshing out. I'm keen to see what's going to happen with the patrol woman. Of course, Colonel Warrible is none too pleased. How's the Phantom going to sort things out? And has this character been there before? I can't remember. We've probably discussed this before, but is this the first story that Dai Luhan has been in, or has she kind of popped up every now and then?
Um, Look, without you keep talking, I'll Google it. I'll quickly
The
go on
reason why I'm
Fandom Wiki.
Phantom Wiki,
But
yeah.
but
The reason why I say
yeah,
so, it could be that Tony DePaul's just introducing this new character and has plans for down the line, just like we've got um, maybe half a dozen patrol men and women who have become recurring characters rather than just Colonel
yeah.
Warrible and then just no name patrol people. Um, yeah, what is she going to add to the mix?
So she was seen once in the Commander Will See You Now, which was the
Mm-hmm.
194th Phantom Sunday story, which is where the Phantom what would you call it?
Reconfigures the
Redecorated.
office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
redecorated the office. So I think you're right. Like, and that's one thing that Tony's has been good at is he's added these secondary and third level tier characters. We've got the patrolman we see more of. We feel like we're getting a bit of better of an understanding of Kit and Heloise and even the bad guys, we feel like we're getting in their in their mind a little bit better than what we would have with past characters. But I I don't know. I do think like in one of his blog posts, Tony DePaul did say that like this last week he has given Mike Manley the concluding weeks of the Muckmen of the Zumaridi River. He won't need copy from me until spring. So I think we can judge by that there's at least a good month or two, if not longer, of this story left. So I think we're going to get a lot. It feels kind of like we're we're pivoting from the story about the Muckmen from the bad guys, and we're kind of more pivoting, or the story's ending about this patrol woman. But I don't know. I don't know. I felt like this story could have ended by now.
It, yeah, it could have, but would we get the depth that Tony really does put into his stories? And more that we're talking about and thinking about it a bit more, it's it's reminding me of the trope, for lack of a better word. The Phantom's done all the stuff behind the scenes and got everyone captured, and then allows someone else to take the credit. Um, and this, it could be an example of that type of story.
Okay, so my counter is, does the fan the Phantom, and this is one of the problems that I had with, one of the problems that I had with Lee Falk stories, is that when the Phantom just goes around rescuing the day, and the patrolmen basically are just janitors and cleaning up the mess that the Phantom leaves behind, does that actually make the Jungle Patrol effective, or does it make them just overgrown Boy Scouts where they're actually useless and they're basically just overgrown janitors cleaning up the mess that the Phantom leaves behind?
Yeah, you've made that point before, and I see it. But also, we did see, there's a scene there where she pumps the crap out of the giant fella there, so she can obviously
Yep.
handle herself. So it's a delicate balance, and I'm sure that Tony will balance it up nicely, so that there's actually what's the word I'm looking for, um, so that the patrolwoman actually does have some substance and has the skills, and she gets an opportunity again to show them off and show that they're not just a
Okay.
cleaner or a Boy Scout or Girl Scout in this instance.
So apart from beating the crap out of a guy, has she shown any leadership or intelligence? Because she's an intelligence officer. Has she showed any leadership, intelligence,
She's
or patrol woman man attributes so far in this story?
she's shown initiative to go into the situation. Now she's gone
Yep.
against orders and a few things like that, but she has. Yeah, she probably should have should have followed procedure, and that's what she's going to get chewed out for by the colonel later. But you can't knock her initiative. She's and willingly will face danger. Well, is in a dangerous situation and will, what's the word I'm looking for? Will has the skills to control it.
Yep, yep. And okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Now it's worth making mention. Now obviously, well, this is a good shout out. If you are wondering why we are looking at strips that are a little bit in the future, if you're a subscriber for Comics Kingdom, you get a week ahead. So we include that for when we do these podcasts. So on the
Which is handy because it comes out before the podcast will come out,
yeah.
and we're still talking about the past week, really.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly, and we can probably finish here as we're kind of
Mm.
leading it for what we were going to discuss next month. So if you're looking on the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, she tries the old trick. Colonel Werribee, the phone's cutting out. I thought that
Going
was
through a
kind
tunnel.
of yeah, yeah. But then you placed yourself in jeopardy, patrolwoman, and not just in Ivory Lana, which is on the 8th of
Mm.
January. And then you've got the two ladies there in the background who look a little bit not happy with her. So that makes me think that we are going to be the story that's going to be ending in the next month or two is going to be a little bit more about her. And so there's that, which kind of makes me think that. And then you're seeing this one on the 9th of January, which, Colonel Werribee basically says, your reckless conduct aside, patrolman, and under the immediate facts as I understand them, and then he goes, circumstances compel me to say Jungle Patrol all the way. So there is that, yes, you've overstepped your boundaries, but the patrolmen are supposed to be each patrolman is supposed to be able to react in a situation of their own, to be able to equal ten men or 10 women. And so I think Colonel Wuriba is kind of showing that, like, yes, you might have overstepped it a little bit, but you are now in control of the situation. Let's, so yeah, I think it's going to be. We've got Colonel Wuriba being the bad cop, and now he's going to be the good cop. And yeah, it's interesting to kind of see where we're going from there.
Hmm. Rightio. So we'll just have to wait till January plays out to see where it has gone.
Hmm.
Rightio. Um, so next up, we've got the Sunday story, Sunday number 197, the Ungraved. So when we last left this story, if I remember correctly, the Phantom is sitting side by side with Major Kurt Bauer. Um, and now Kurt is telling the Phantom his story, or had been telling the Phantom his story. And since then, the Phantom and Major Kurt Bauer have landed the Flying Fortress safely at Malvertown Airport, much to the astonishment of the control tower and Diana, who provides the Phantom with a quick getaway in the 88 and also gives him a bit of the silent treatment, which lasts all of mere seconds.
Yeah.
Now, President Loaga is. I heard you chuckle on that one. President Loaga is called onto the scene and is now chatting with Kurt, who has mentioned a mystery man who had arrived through the window of the plane. Surely President Loaga won't take too long to figure out that a certain ghost not only walks, but seemingly flies as well.
So maybe the Superman saying, "Is that a bird? Is that a plane?" No, it's Superman. Maybe that should be readdressed for the Phantom.
Why not? Well, it's like Buzz Lightyear. He's not flying, he's just falling with style.
Yeah. Um, Look, this story's got me intrigued because you've now got this guy who's in 2026 or 2025, depending on what year we're in.
Well, it
And
actually does state it in once it goes 2026 in one of the things. Yeah.
yeah, so it's it's how are we going to have this guy who thought it is 1944? Was it 1944? Yes, in 1944, and now he's thinking it's 2026. Do we have our own scenario of Captain America where, he was frozen in time and this guy has time looped in time? How are we how's that going to happen in a Phantom's world that is steeped in reality? And is this, how's that going to correlate? I think we're obviously not in that area of, that gray area of mystery. He is definitely in 2026. It's not just the Phantom and Diana. It is, the people at the airport. It's President Lawaga. There's at least 3 policemen that we have seen that are on site. The numbers are stacking up of people that it's harder to explain. That's my
Mm,
concern with this story.
yeah, I see the point. But mysterious things happen over Wambeezy land or in the Longo Forest, as we've seen in stories past. Also, as we'll touch on later when we do the Christmas issue, we've got these almost humans that are also in the well, at least in the
Oh,
Sunday stories. Um,
yeah, don't get me started on those.
I don't know if our vision is up or you're just seeing the comic strip that Germ's just face planted, just hand in face, just saying, "Oh, Steve, why'd you bring that up?" And I
Yeah.
bring it up
So,
because there's
yeah.
there's precedence.
But is that our Phantom?
It's the Phantom.
Is our
It is the
Phantom
Phantom that's
steeped?
the official in King Features Syndicate being put out there in the newspapers. It's the Phantom.
Yeah, but okay. So this is a problem. This is a problem that I have is that in the past, whenever there was these fantastical elements, and there's the gladiator, which was this gladiator that's been roaming the world for 2,000 years. There's, jungle myths like Queen Samaras the 12th, and there's all these fantastical elements and stories, and and stuff like that. But whenever there's been that, not all the time, majority of the time, it's been shrouded in mystery, or was it a dream, or was there that grey area and stuff like that. I feel like so far, now I could be proven wrong, there's still at least a month for this story to finish, because the new story doesn't start until February, so there's at least a month. Is there going to be a room where it becomes a mystery, or how is Tony going to explain this? Because as this guy's scratching his head, I'm scratching my head. I got a little bit more hair. It's grey, but I got a little bit more hair than this guy. How is this going to be happening? And the number of people that are if it is going to be shrouded in mystery, as you can see on this panel on the 21st of December, there's at least 5 policemen along with Luaga. So that's 6, and then there's the people in the tower. So there's at least another 3 there. There's 10. There's the Phantom of Diana. All of a sudden, we're up to a dozen. There's going to be more people that have seen this mythical aeroplane landing in Moatuan, which, would have a couple of million people in the airport. So it's just becoming a little bit more fantastical, and I'm not sure I want my Phantom to be like that.
I just suspend your disbelief and enjoy the story.
But
You're not
that's
watching
one
the
of the
news.
things.
It's not facts. It's not, this page in the newspaper is the break from reality.
Yeah, but
But yet
the
it still
fans,
has
one of
a.
the Phantom's always been one of the things that I've enjoyed about the Phantom is that he's not like Spider-Man or Superman or something like that. He is steeped in reality. Is our
Mhm.
Phantom going away from being steeped in reality?
Find out. I think it's still in reality and just with fantastical elements.
All right, we'll agree to disagree on that one. Look, the artwork is amazing. Really enjoyed the artwork.
Yeah.
It's yeah, look, look, you can't fault the artwork. The story's got me intrigued. I'm just not sure I'm a fan of where we're heading at the moment, but I hope to be proven wrong.
Well, we'll see how we go. Right. That's it, I guess, for the newspaper stories. That's the dailies and the Sundays. So now we've got Frew issues. We've got 2 issues to cover today. Is that right, Jim? I'm not missing something?
Yes, 2 issues to cover, and then we've got all the non-Australian ones as well,
The
which we'll get
non-Australian
to
ones, yeah.
afterwards.
So issue 2011 is a 2-story issue. The main story being The Heir of Frankenstein by Joan Boyd, and the backup for lack of a better word, story is Hunter's Prey Part 2 by Shane Foley. So we'll start off with The Heir of Frankenstein. Mary Shelley's masterpiece, Frankenstein, has had an incredible effect on the future 17th Phantom's biology professor, Theodore Morell. After reading the story, he can't help but visualize his own creation of bringing life back from the dead. But surely he can't be serious, though. Fast forward a couple of years, and the 17th Phantom is visiting an old university mate when things go awry. The Phantom, as Kit Walker, attempts to disrupt a mugging/kidnapping, but is shot. Thankfully, it is but a scratch. As he lies on the cobblestone street, he hears the voice of his old biology professor ordering the kidnappers about. How could a respected university professor have anything to do with such a crime? The Phantom, along with his old university mate, who he just happens to be visiting, intend to find out. Surely Morell's vision couldn't become a reality, could it?
Look, I said it in the last story. I'm going to say it in the next issue. I'm a little bit over these type of stories. I'm sounding like Dan Fraser here, being the grumpy old fart of the podcast. But
You're the grumpy young fart, aren't you?
but yeah, I don't know. Like, surely this story could have just stayed in the monster annual that we had last year. I'm not sure why we needed it again. I had
Maybe.
look.
Hang on. Was it
No, I
ready
think
by then?
Yeah, this was first
2023.
published in
Ooh,
2023, so it could have been
yeah,
included in the 25 annual. Does it look
it seems
from a
suited for it.
from a story point of view, I didn't mind it.
Mm,
The artwork, Joan Boyce's artwork when he's doing these horror type of stories matches the style. So
absolutely.
I enjoyed the artwork. I actually didn't mind the story. I'm just a little bit over some of these elements and um yeah, it's not they're not my cup of tea. They're not the Phantom that I grew up and enjoyed. I enjoyed Phantom stories that are a little bit more steeped in reality, where and I feel like this is bordering along the fantastical and I'm happy to read those, but this should have been in
Mm.
the 25 annual, which was the monster theme one.
I agree with that. It would have suited the 25 annual. I think absolutely it was another Frankenstein story. And, however, you're saying about fantastic elements. It's all based on science, mate. He's a scientist and he's using experiments and all that sort of stuff. That's reality, isn't it? Science is reality.
Well, look, if the story was kind of like we're not sure, and again, this is what I'm talking about, like how would like that gray area. So, like for instance, if you were to create this story as in the gray area, it would be, did the Frankenstein exist, or like did it exist or did it not exist, and in shadows, and you're not really sure whether it's real or not, or whether it's just an unforeseen bunch of circumstances. For me, that's how you create that's type of gray area, which allows you to kind of live in that gray area a little bit. But this is definitely he's existed, he's around, which yeah, I'm not really sure. It feels like we're getting a little bit more of these type of stories with with the monster theme. We've had that Andrew Constant creation of that story of again of another Frankenstein. I'm a little bit over him, to be honest.
Just they've gone to the well a few times too many this past year, and you want to see it on another
Yeah,
try another
the
well, for
past
lack of a
couple
better
of
word.
years. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah. Like it actually got me thinking, we haven't really, you know, I read the Phantom comics before, but I came locked into the Phantom when we were having the Labunga series, which was the political dramas, the
mm,
Phantom fighting, Labunga from, from a Phantom point of view, from the, Bengala point of view, from the jungle point of view with the witch doctors. And, there was that, and then you had Sandal Singh coming in and, you know, that whole type of that the other type of stories that the Labunga series was that really hooked me. The
mm.
setup story, which was, kind of like the story based on the Fugitive movie that was, popular back in the 80s and the 90s. They're the type of stories that were, they're based in reality. Um, I I was thinking about this as I was reading these type of stories. When was the last real classic type of story that really grabbed you, that there was a series of Phantom stories and it wanted you to read more. You could I don't know if we've had anything, whether it's from Frew, whether it's from Egmont, for the last couple of years. It's been a bit of a barren patch, and this is just another ho hum story. It's fine, it's enjoyable, but I don't know.
Mm. Well, fair enough. Um, when I do remember the Lamanga series, but when you were saying, or you're about to say, what stories captured you in the last few years, but then you didn't go KFS because I was thinking the what's his name? Not the Python, the Nomad, and that series was with Heloise and all that sort of stuff. That that
Yeah,
was gripping. That had you.
the death of Diana
Um,
Parker, that was another one. That
yeah,
was, like I remember reading it every single day purely because it was a very, very, those saga of 5 stories, which would have
Mm.
been published over, at a guess, probably about a year, maybe 2 years,
It'll be more
closer
than a
to two
year.
years. They were the type of, that story was, that whole arc was just amazing. The Heloise versus the Nomad story of, going up in the plane. You're on your seat, on the edge of your seat. I don't know. Like, it just feels like probably in the last 5 years or so, there's been some fine stories, but there hasn't been that ongoing arc of a story where, like the Golden Rune series, these multi-part stories where you're entrenched, where you're invested. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just wondering as you're talking there, when was the last time we checked in on the Sandal Singh saga? That's
It's
probably
been a
been a while, hasn't
while,
it?
like the
Mm.
22nd Phantom story. Like, I've enjoyed that, but again, that's been sporadically. Like, even Phantom Man will publish it, like one issue and then another issue 4 or 5 later, and then another one, and then Frew hasn't published it for at least 2 to 3 years. It's very drawn out. It doesn't give you that ability to be able to, like, the Lubunga stories were very, one after the other. It was very, you were that was what you focused on. All the stories were focused on that. You were
When
waiting for
when the
the
Labunga
next issue.
series came out, when the Labunga series came out, did Brew publish them straight after Egmont, or did
Yeah,
Egmont publish them
pretty
like a
much
couple
at
of
the
years ago?
same.
And
No,
then,
pretty
all
much
right,
the same. So around that time, Frew was publishing literally around this, like, the same week, within 1 or 2 weeks at most, about a month. And again,
yeah,
this
right.
was this was before the internet as well. So,
Mm.
obviously, yeah. I don't know. It's just, look,
Anyway,
totally off topic. We're going way off topic here, but it's just,
but
um
it's interesting. It's a heck of a job that Dudley and Brew have got to try and keep their readers happy. I remember a couple of years ago we were saying that, geez, we haven't had anything featuring the vultures in a long time, and then we got stacks of vulture stories, or it seemed like we got stacks of vulture stories. Then we've got, the last couple of years, as you're saying, we had these lots of almost supernatural, but monsters and fantastical elements. Um, so now, yeah, it's been a couple of years since we've had the 22nd Fandom saga, and yeah, and the Sandal Singh stuff. So maybe it has. I'm going to assume, without checking, that Egmont's published some more stuff in regards to Sandal Singh and the 22nd that we haven't got. Would that be right?
22nd Phantom, yes. The Sandal Singh ongoing one, I don't think so.
Yeah, right.
He's kind of like
I'm
just
just
withered in the background.
Yeah, I'm just thinking maybe Brew's just destroying a few things up so they can go bang, 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 and so people aren't whinging that, oh, it's been so long between drinks between the next you know
Mm.
number of issues, and they can just whack out a few issues over the next 6 months, and people can stay up to date with what's going on. Anyway, this is all just wondering what's going on. Like you said, it's a fair story. It's a not good story, but you know, is it something that you're on the edge of your seat for, or something you're going to say, oh, yeah, I'm going to reread that Frankenstein story back from the end of 2025. That was a good one. It's probably not one you're going to come back to,
Unless you're a Frankenstein monster fan.
unless you're a Frankenstein fan. Then you've got plenty to choose from over the past couple of years. Okay, now the second story in this issue, as I mentioned off the top, is Hunter's Prey Part 2 by Shane Foley. The Phantom, looking for answers to help him on his search for the Leopard Man, has headed down to the docks to a little place called the Green Dragon. And no, it's not a Lord of the Rings themed restaurant. Rather, it's the latest colour for Tara of Guru Jungle Muggers fame to name her establishment. From there, knowing that he is on the right track, the Phantom starts to ask around about a certain golden man. Soon he is interrupted by a couple of goons who take him to meet the man. Will their conversation be fruitful, or has the Phantom stalled too long for time?
Mm. Now, this is interesting. So I just want to point out a couple of things, and this is this is why it's important for Phantom creators to actually understand who the Phantom is. So you've
What, are you
got
about to knock Shane Foley or about to pump his tires up?
about to pump his tires up. So
Yep.
this and this is why I personally enjoy the stories of fans like Andreas Eriksson, Matt Kime, Duncan Munro, I'm missing some, Paul Mason
Shane.
and Shane, is because they know who the Phantom is. They're fans first who are then creating stories. And I feel sometimes, in my personal opinion, these creators have an advantage over the writers first because they understand who the Phantom is. So, for instance, like this here, where you've got the Green Dragon, you made mention, Lee Falk had it as the blue as the red, which was basically the same place, but it was just different color. And the Phantom keeps shutting it down, and then they open up one across the street and name it, a different color. And so like this is a tale from 1980, which you talked about. So there's that like one, and then there's this other thing here where he's, you see just a little panel here, and he's turning his ring around, and he says, "No need to advertise my presence yet." And you know, and then another thing that you probably haven't mentioned, most people wouldn't have even seen, but Pirate Day 2024, that's a Wilson McCoy classic story. So it's just these little nods that when you're reading it and you're a longtime fan, you're reading it and you're going, oh yeah, I remember that, or it makes you appreciate the stories more and you feel like you're more invested in these stories because it pays tribute to the past. But if you're a writer who hasn't done your homework in reading the Phantom, knowing who the Phantom is, understanding these type of things, you wouldn't know that it was only ever mentioned in one Lee Falk story, but has been continued in other stories that when the Phantom is not wanting to make it known that he's around, he turns his ring around, or when he's not on mission, he turns his ring around so it looks like a wedding ring. Or if he's going to go to the docks, he's going to go visit Tara and he's going to do these type of things. But Phantom writers that don't do their research don't include these things or jungle sayings and stuff like that. And I think it tells.
Yeah. Well, we know Shane definitely knows what he's doing. And you're saying about turning the ring around. We saw that most recently in Tony DePaul's latest daily as well, where some are scale marked and others yeah,
Yes.
no marked.
Yeah. And yeah, and look, this isn't to say that I don't enjoy stories from writers who are not fans. I just think that if you are a writer and you have, it's a job, and that's fair enough because, it's a job. You gotta do it. But that's where things like the Phantom Bible, these podcasts, listening to fans, getting a Phantom fan or something like that to read the story before it goes to print. Things like that are important because they can add those little elements or add suggestions like, hey, how about you added a jungle saying in here, or you do this or you do that. It just adds a little bit of credibility, that extra credibility or extra enjoyment to that story. So when fans are reading it, I think they will enjoy the stories more, which then means you get
Mm,
more of a gig.
good point. Now, all those things are important, but you need to make sure that you have a good story as well.
Yes.
Um, And I agree with absolutely everything you said. I like it when having the fan go down by the docks. Oh yeah, that's a classic fan trip, going down by the docks and asking around. And like what he says, just go around and be annoying, and then until someone gets in his way, basically. And is exactly what's happened. But this story in particular, I haven't really got into like this golden people thing. It's not. It's been a little while between drinks as well. I know
Yeah.
that, but when it was all happening first time with these golden people and who was who, and then you had this albino person, and it got a little bit confusing for me,
Yeah.
and I couldn't get into the story. reintroducing the story and bringing these elements that, like you said, if you're a fan, you know them, they're familiar to you, has helped bring me back in. But but we'll see where it goes.
So
And
what's interesting,
I did like the nod to Tolkien and Lord of the Rings.
yeah, what's interesting about this is that these are 7 pages where a lot of the other ones are 8 pages. So maybe, and we've seen it at the start of Prey Part 1, where you had a 1 page giving a recap, and then
Yeah, that was handy.
Paul Mason does that with his Vietnam stories, is
Mm,
that if Shane Foley's going to do these 7 pages, maybe he needs to reserve and have the 8th page, because if you look at the comic, there is room for the 8 pages because there's 2 pages of adverts after it. Is
yeah,
have that 8th page where it gives you the recap for those who, and let's face it, we
you
all,
came in late.
we came in late, where we can't remember what happened, can't remember what we had for lunch yesterday, let alone on the story that was part 1 that was published a month ago. Maybe that would actually just help some people being able to kind of catch up.
Yeah, probably don't need it for part one that was just done last month. It was just they refer to issue
Yeah,
2011 or 2010, whatever it was. But having that catch up in part one about what had happened, a couple of years ago, whatever it was, and it was last brought out, that really did help me bring. Oh yeah, that's right. And she was going there, and for some
yeah,
years she wants to see what the outside world. Yes, I remembered all that sort of stuff. But it's not one that I've really got into. Um, you know, there's some Shane stuff that I really like, and there's some that I haven't. And this is one that I'm not really into, but
not
I'm
not
enjoying
yet.
it. And
There's
not
room
yet.
for Shane to change your mind.
That's right. Something that we haven't covered yet is the cover. We haven't actually spoken about Jason Paulus's cover for this issue, issue 2011, which very much is based on the Frankenstein story. And we mentioned about Jones' art really lending itself to that mysterious and dark type of story. Jason Paulus's art also lends itself to that. In the dark moors underneath this tower, and Frankenstein's monster battling a couple of fellas there who are trying to hunt him down. So yeah, it's definitely a Jason Paulus artwork. You either like it or you don't.
His
Mm,
style matches the style of the story very well.
absolutely, yeah,
It was an
and I
inspired
like it.
choice.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, don't. I'll probably mention this on other podcasts. I don't have many originals, but I do have some of Jason's originals. So yes, all good.
Mm.
Right, into the next issue, the Christmas issue. Did you have a good Christmas there, Germ? I didn't say that off the top of the podcast.
Yeah, look, yeah, we hope everyone had a good Christmas. You too, and everything like that. No, it was good. Look, enjoyed the cover.
Yeah,
Alex, I guess we'll
Alex
talk
Tripp.
about the cover. Yeah, I like the
Yeah,
there's a few little Easter eggs, like there's a little Phantom plush doll in there. There's a comic which is actually Alex Tripp's last issue of the Christmas cover that he did. There's the what do you call it? The stockings that are all named. We had one fan on Facebook made mention of, oh, how come Garan doesn't get a stocking? It is worth making mention that Garan actually has his own house. He doesn't actually live in the Skull Cave.
has his own
Um,
family.
yeah, yeah. And so that's probably why Garan doesn't have a stocking with his name on it in in
Yeah.
their house. I'm sure Diana probably has to feed him enough as it is, and she probably doesn't want to encourage having to buy Christmas stocking stuffers for Garan as well.
Oh, I'm sure they picked something up for him anyway. But nice little tidbits in the cover too. You mentioned the toys there. Got the glass of milk sitting on the on the arm of the skull throne. Um, I like the white horse as a bit of a call out to Hero. Okay, so in the Christmas issue, as is tradition with Frew, they've published a couple of the KFS stories, the Tony Paul. So we've got one Sunday and one daily in the Christmas issue. So the start off with the Sunday story, which is Return to the Temple of the Gods, which is, well, as I said, written by Tony Paul with art by Jeff Weigel. Now it's returning to this. We are returning to the story that was first published by King Features from May 2022 to July 2023. And within the story, there are lots of callbacks to previous stories, such as the U-boat mystery and Return to Eden, that's from 2005, and the Fire Peak Tribe, which was in 2006. Now, as it's opened up in the story, in the issue that we have, Diana has walked in on the Phantom viewing a disturbing video of a professor being attacked by a creature outside the mouth of a cave. The Phantom means to investigate, and Diana has resolved to go with him, no matter how many times he tries to do the old Taylor Swift and shake her off.
Yeah.
The Phantom, Diana, and Devil head into the deepest depths of the cave and uncover a civilization that has flourished for centuries, the domain of the almost human. But to get there, they must first travel through the chambers of the lesser humans. Will the Phantom, Diana, and Devil make it through the chambers safely? What will they discover in this new domain? How is the third Phantom connected? Will they be welcomed, or will they be forced to stay as prisoners or guests of the almost humans? Yeah, you may have noticed that I mentioned a little bit at the start, from where we start at, that our story doesn't start quite where it did on the in the Sundays, but you've got a different picture up there, dear Jim.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, as always, we flicked through this on YouTube. Now, what I'm showing is actually what originally appeared in the newspaper. It's a mixture of the, I don't know, what, 4x6 and also a longer format. But what this was pointed out to me by Christian, no, it was a Christian? Christopher, sorry. Christopher Whitmore, I think his last name was. I apologize. The first Sunday on the 15th of May actually wasn't included in the story. So it's interesting. It's interesting that Dudley did that. I wonder if it was because if you've got the issue, he's literally one page one page too much. Like it starts on page 3 and ends on page 99. So if he included that, it would have had to gone up to 116 pages. So that might have been an editorial decision. But in reading it, I don't really think it's missed that much. What are your thoughts?
Oh no, no, it hasn't. And can you skip forward to the next week? Like it works.
Yeah.
It does work, but you are missing out that little bit, which if we like to say that our Frew issues are, what is it, complete stories?
Yeah.
This isn't. Do you remember your feelings on the story when it was first published, June? Comparing to having it all, minus a page gathered as one?
Look, I'll go back to this first part. When I first saw this and I saw Return to the Temple of the Gods, I went, "Oh, not these guys again," because I didn't like them back then, and I didn't like them when they were first published back in 2005 to 2010. Because for those who are interested in knowing, you may mention that these are callbacks to previous newspaper stories. So what happened is that story was the U-boat mystery, Return to Eden, and then Tony DePaul wrote 3 or 4 stories that were published in Phantom, which were then published in comic format in Frew as well. And then we had a gap of about 12 years before we saw this again. Look, I've said it countless times on this podcast, so I don't need to re-say it. But what I enjoyed having Diana on this story. I thought if it was just the Phantom talking to Devil, I don't think it would have been as good. I think Diana added a lot to this story.
And yeah, how so? More than just a narrative device, so the reader knows what's going on, that he's got someone to converse with. How is she added to the story there, Jim?
Just like, so there's that. There's also, there's the, where he tries to ditch her. You made mention of that. He tries to ditch her in here. Yeah, it adds to the length of the story, but then he tries to ditch her again here. He gives her another option when they're down in the tunnel as well to ditch her as well. But I don't know, it just adds to the story. I feel like Diana's portrayed as more than just a kidnap story plot in here. I think she's not 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 as an equal to the Phantom, but she's she's shown as something more than just a, eye candy, for the lack of a better term.
Yeah. It really helps flesh out that third dimension. They're husband and wife. It's more than it helps to bring substance to the relationship and substance to both their characters. Dana has always been an adventurer. When we first see her, she's on the ship and she's knocking out a fella in the boxing and sparring and the thing. And it's good to see her going back to those roots, if you like, and exploring this temple. Now, it's dangerous, and the Phantom wants to look after her and make sure she's safe and okay. Hence the reason we can always turn back or try to shake her off back at Eden and that sort of stuff. But her adventurous heart is forcing her on. She has no control of it. She wants to be there and be a part of it, even if it means seeing things that might give her a nightmare and that sort of stuff. And there was something, I think it's the next week or two after what you're just showing up on the screen now, where she actually huddles back into the Phantom, and on that one we can take a minute,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. And it's what Tony has really, and we've said all the time, he adds those extra depths, those extra elements to the characters. Yes, his stories go on for long and could be wrapped up within a couple of weeks, couple of months, and that sort of stuff. But would we have the same depth for these characters? They'll just be like two-dimensional beings on the page if he didn't do this sort of stuff.
Well, what I was going to say is the other good thing about having Diana in this story is that for a lot of readers, they haven't read the stories about the fourth Phantom, or having, back in 2005 to 2010 when they featured in newspapers, but also in Phantom and Frew comics. So having Diana there allows the Phantom to be able to play as for those who came in late type of thing. He's able to bring the newer readers along with what's happening by the Phantom telling Diana as well. So it's well done how he's done that. So,
anything else?
So I've talked about how I'm not a fan of these Temple of the Gods. Like, what about you?
I couldn't remember those earlier stories. I didn't go back to them to recheck them. But having the editor's notes in there saying, if you want to read more, go to these issues and the ones I just mentioned before. It's a story where not a heck of a lot happens. It's an exploring story. It's checking out the relationship between the Phantom and Diana. They're exploring a cave and putting another location on the map of Phantom Country, basically, is what it's doing. There's no real time where the Phantom fears for his life. There's no real danger that isn't solved within a panel or two. They're looking for the professor's assistant. That gets resolved fairly easily. It all really sets itself up for a future story. There's no danger really. There's no real heavy complication. It's just really introducing an area. It's introducing some characters, and no doubt, or probably there is a doubt, I don't know, but it's something that Tony can go back to later.
This page here we are talking about page 37 in the Frew issue, talking about the whole lesser human, and where she says, the difference between my kind and yours, and maybe we're more lesser human than what they are with the way that some of us react and stuff like that. So yeah,
it seems to be a theme
nothing,
in these last couple of issues.
yeah.
We've got Frankenstein. We call him a monster, but he shows humanity, or is he only attacks when he's to defend himself and that sort of stuff. We talk about almost human or beyond human, and lesser human were the more savage type creatures.
Yeah, not much has changed in the last 3 years.
Yeah, no. Yeah. The next story in the Christmas special is The Avarice Has Landed, once again by Tony DePaul, with art this time by Mike Manley. The tech billionaire Ian Mollusk has launched his SpaceX program with the Avarice Lunar Explorer taking off from Cape Grandiose, which then crash lands into the jungles of Bengala. What will the Phantom find when he explores the crash site? Surely a tech billionaire would have nothing but the best interest and best intentions for humanity as their sole purpose of space exploration. And what does the word avarice mean again? Pretty sure a certain hero took an oath about that.
Yeah, I remember this is the story that, it's been about a year and a half since it was first published in the newspapers, and we're seeing it for the first time here. This was also the first story that Mike Manley came back to drawing after having some time away. I don't really
It's
know
a
if there's
fun
much.
story
Yeah,
with a commentary on current
yeah,
political events.
yeah, and then with so there's that AI type of influence, that's topical. These billionaires are topical, especially in America. People who, so it's a very topical, but look, I personally don't think that Tony Paul oversteps the mark in this story, but in reading some commentary by some fans, they think that it is wrong to kind of make fun of certain people. But I must admit, I'm probably more, if I had to choose where I probably sit on the political sphere, I'm probably saying center right, like very center, but slightly probably leaning towards the right. But I don't think there's a problem with it. So, I don't think the lefts will, because, it's having a go at the far right, but I think maybe the far right people might think it's a little bit too much. But yeah, I personally didn't. What about you?
Well, I think it was too much. I don't think it's too much at all. I just think it's just a
Mm,
political commentary. And if people are getting their knickers in a knot about this, then there's a lot of harder stuff out there that um, they could really do their head in. What I thought was funny, this story is a lot about AI in this story, and probably was only just beginning when this story came out. But today, AI is so prevalent. It's used almost every day in certain industries. It was funny. I was doing some research. I was trying as I was reading the Sunday story. What's that one called? The Ungraved. I just went, trying to base things on reality. And when that story first came out, we were looking at the type of plane it was, Flying Fortress, and we were doing all that sort of research into it. Then I thought, I wonder if this Major Kurt Borer was actually a real person. And so I Google searched him, and the AI thing that comes up there at the start of the search was saying, it was a military officer or whatever it was, bang, 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 bang. According to Facebook, and so according to Facebook, then I realized it's got owls or phantomins. It was drawing on what we'd said about a fictional comic character and putting it up as who this person is. And I thought, you've got to watch out for this AI stuff. It's a warning. And I know that there's Dean Rankin recently shared a post that he did a Google search for himself, and it said that he was dead. He had his parents wrong, and all this other type of stuff. So had his photo up there, but
yeah,
the information that it was giving just wasn't right. And that's part of the commentary, I guess, on this is, the AI has come down. It thinks it's on the moon and wants to, reshape the moon in Ian's own image, but it's not on the moon, and it can't. It still doesn't. It's still not human. It doesn't have that critical thinking. It just knows what it reads,
yeah,
and
and
what it reads lacks
yeah,
subtlety. It lacks nuance, and it lacks context.
and I enjoy the fact that the Phantom is, and we talked about this, where the Phantom's based in reality. You know, illegal mining and exploration and AI and robots. That's current day stuff.
Mm.
It's actually happening. Like even, in Australia, which is not, have a go at us or whatever, but the robotic dogs, they're in police forces in Australia. They're
Are
in
they?
the army. Yeah, not quite
Mm.
to the point of it is like
Mm.
that. They're in the army in the US,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So they're around. So
Yeah.
it's,
And
this
just and
is
talking about drone technology, and not just drone technology, but swarm technology. Like I was talking
mm,
to one of the teachers at work, and yeah, he was just saying all this stuff matter of fact, and I'm thinking, mate, this is what the hell are you talking about? But yeah, it's not science fiction. It's science
no,
now.
yeah, and I think that's important to have our Phantom, with talking on a mobile phone. There's no point in him battling all this and then going, oh, okay, I need a telephone pole so I can go patch into the wire and call
Mm.
the Waga like that. The Bengalan people that live in the tribes, they will have cell coverage. So why can't the Phantom have cell coverage?
Mm.
It gives you an extra element. The Phantom, every Phantom has their pilot license. As soon as planes were around, the first Phantom, whether it was the 18th or the 19th, it's like, okay, we need to get our license. So
Yeah.
they went and got their license. Um,
Yeah.
if people in the banded tribe have got the phones, the Phantom's going to go, well, heck, if I'm in the middle of fighting and thing and I need help with the jungle patrol or whatever, I can't all of a sudden pull out a little jungle drum and bang on the little jungle drum to try and get it. I can pick up the phone, which I've got, or use my Bluetooth and do it like that. The Phantom is going to use technology if needed. Otherwise, you'll still be carrying around a sword instead of
Yeah.
guns.
And that's something that I said on previous podcasts. It's always the current day in the Phantom,
Yeah.
right? And always the current day. But I've just like the scene that you had up there a moment ago, where you got the president's guards or officials and that sort of stuff. They've all drawn their guns, and you got what's his name?
Babadon?
Bubbledon. Yeah, Bubbledon there, and a couple of the other um,
It's probably not how you
band. They're
pronounce
just,
it, but
but they've got their bow and arrows now. I like to think that they know that there's other technology out there, but there's something that they just like about it, and they're very skillful at it. And um, they could have a gun or whatever, but have you seen them with the bow and arrow? They know what they're doing with it.
yeah, yeah,
They realize that there's a modern world out there, and they said you can have it. We choose to live here. We choose to live by these traditions.
yeah. This was a very good panel here where it was again Diana,
Yeah,
says, what if he's telling the truth and it is unmanned and he's talking about AI and she's talking about AI and giving, educating the Phantom and stuff and Luaga. So yeah, it's look, I the story reading it week by week or day by day, I went through peaks and troughs with the story. Like I'm really enjoying it. It's dragging a little bit. Reading it as a whole, I've enjoyed it, but overall, I've enjoyed the fact that it's a story where the Phantom is battling current day problems.
hmm.
And unfortunately, tech billionaires and other billionaires and all this type of stuff is present day stuff that we are dealing with, that our friends in the States are dealing with, our friends around the world are dealing with. There's unarmed drones and stuff like that where, friends and in Middle East and parts of Europe and stuff like that are dealing with at the moment. So I enjoyed that fact as well.
Hmm. And the thinking that the moon is just something that you can go and claim and take
Yeah.
ownership of. That if you've got enough money, you get to own things. And yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the world that tend to think that way.
Yeah.
It's just yours for the taking.
Yeah. I think we'll leave that discussion there.
Yes, because we're a comics podcast, not a political one or whatever else you want to go with there. Right, yeah. So that's what's crikey, we went for a little while on that one, I think. So that's what's been published in Australia over the last couple of months, or last month, really. So now let us review the comics from Germany and the United States. We're still chasing fans from Norway, Sweden, France, and Brazil to help out by reviewing comics from those countries. So please make sure you get in contact with us. So take it away, our international people.
Welcome to Chronicle Chamber. My name is Chris. Today we have a look at ECR Verlag Werner Reuss with comics number 92 and 93. And as a special, we have the 88 again in it, because they send the old 88 back and you can win something. But I don't know why they send again the magazine number 88. I must look at a different time at it. And we start with the daily comic number 92. It's Prinz Harley und der weiße Hengst. It's Prince Harley and the White Stallion. And we have this as Phantom Comic number 79, Gehetzt und gejagt. And I show some pages here. And we start with the ECR Verlag. The paper is awesome, the story is cool, the printing quality is also very, very good for these old newspaper strips. We have reprints in Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Denmark, Canada, Finland, France, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, India, Ireland, Italy, Jamaica, Mexico, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States, and the former Yugoslavia. And it's really cool how the ECR Verlag printed this old newspaper stripes in this beautiful magazine, which has 33 pages, and it costs €19.80. And we start with 93, and it's called Bullet Town, and in Germany Ballermannstadt. And we also have it from the Bastei Verlag, the old number 10, which I show you here. Some pages. And we do the ECR. Like I said, again, awesome quality, paper quality and printing quality. The story is also totally cool. Love to read it. We have 32 pages here, and for under €20 it's a good buy, I think. And it's a 93rd story, and this is because the ECR Verlag called it 93. We didn't have 93 comics now, but they printed like the daily stories. ECR Verlag Werner Reuss with the number 94 and 95. It's called The Killer, and like always it's sealed in a plastic wrap. Some advertising if you wanna order it. And we start with 94. The Killer. The Killer is the 94th daily story from Lee Falk and Siberia, and we have it also from the Bastei Verlag. Terror im Dschungel, number 16. and we do the ECR Verlag. Awesome printing, awesome paper, awesome story, all awesome. It costs 90 euros 80 cents for 23 pages. It comes always in a double pack, both magazines for 20 euros. And we have reprints in Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Iceland, India, Ireland, Italy, Jamaica, Mexico, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States and the former Yugoslavia. I like the Bastei comic as a kid, and this original black and white story flashed me like I'm young again, and it's an awesome read for me. And it's an awesome magazine. They did a great job at ECR Verlag. The back cover, and we start with the magazine number 95, Der Seegott. The Seegott, and Bastei also released it back in the days with the number 14, which I show you a quick look here. And then we do the ECR Verlag again. It's the same. Great printing, great paper, great magazine, great stuff, great story. Like I said, the Bastei comic, I read it up and down all day, all night. I grew up with Bastei Verlag. I love the comics, and this is also fantastic. And we have several reprints again, and we have 23 pages. This time we have a look at ECR Verlag Werner Reuss number 96 with cover from Andy, which is right here, and we have the story The Satchel, in German Die Tasche. Nice Bastei reference here, and Bastei has released this comic in number 16, the second story, Der große Aufstand. And I show some pages, and now we go to the ECR comic. The print is very sharp. The comic is nice to read. We have several reprints in Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Greece, Iceland, India, Ireland, Italy, Jamaica, Mexico, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States, and the former Yugoslavia. And it's, like I said, a cool story. The printing and paper quality is awesome, and it's a nice story to read. And the back cover, and now we have the second story, always wrapped in plastic foil. Some advertising, like always. And we have Die Verbrecherschule, the crime school, which cover again from Andy. And this comic was also released in Germany. Bastei number 14, Die Bande der eisernen Hand, which I show you here. And also the same paper and printing is awesome. Reprints we have in Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Iceland, India, Ireland, Italy, Jamaica, Mexico, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States, and the former Yugoslavia. And also a very cool story to read. I know the stories from the old Bastei comics, and I love the comics. I love Phantom. And we have the last side. It is 21 pages. The first story has 18 pages and it costs 20 euros. Today we have a look at ECR Verlag Wiener Reus. First time ever in Germany, the number 126, Die Höhlenwelten. It's called The Cave Lands in English. Cover, like always, from Mysterious Andy. Looks cool, I think so. And we have Lee Falk and Siberi. Like I said, it's a variant edition, first edition in Germany, never released before. The paper and printing quality is like always awesome. The story is cool to read, I like it very much. We have thick paper and it's a cool story, and the Siberi comics I like very much. We have 24 pages here. 2 comics cost 24 euros 80 cents, and we're done with this magazine. The backside, some advertising like always if you want to order, and the comics are always sealed with a plastic bag. And we have the comic number 128. It's a German first print, and the cover is from Andy again, and first time you see it here. We have reprints in Australia, Brazil, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, Iceland, India, Italy, Jamaica, Mexico, Norway, Papua New Guinea, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States, and Yugoslavia. Like I said, it was never released here in Germany. And also a nice comic, nice to read, but I prefer the other comic much more than this one, but it's cool to read. And the always known back cover from the ECR Verlag, and this are the 2 magazines for 25 bucks. Today we have the Art 9 Phantom, die Klassiker number 2, Phantom Classics number 2. It costs 21 euros. It is sealed in plastic bag, and it is the first time released in Germany. It's a full story of the second daily story, and we have some informations about this new comic, and it's Die Sky Band, the Sky Band, written by Lee Falk and drawn by Ray Moore. And the quality is awesome, awesome printing, awesome text, awesome story. They did a very, very good job at Art 9. The paper is high quality. It's not glossy, but it's good to read. And it's, like I said, the second story. We had the first story, Thing Brotherhood, and it's from Austria, and it's released in Austria and in Germany. We have in this edition 143 pages with 2 comics in it. And like I said, it costs 21 euros, and it's worth the money. The story is at this time cool, but when you think it's 90 years old, but it's nice to read, and I love it very, very much. This edition has 132 strips, and now we have Krieg im Dschungel, War in the Jungle, the third daily story, also known as Diamond Hunters, and we have reprints from this story in Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Finland, France, Italy, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Turkey, United States, and Yugoslavia, the former Yugoslavia. And the Sky Band has reprints in Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Finland, France, Italy, Mexico, Norway, Spain, Sweden, Turkey, United States, and the former Yugoslavia. And the War Jungle, it's also very, very sharp and nice printing. The text is very good to read. Again, they did really an awesome job. And we have 138 strips in here, and it was released from 12th April 1937, and the story runs to September 18th 1937, and Art 9 said they did the third book with Little Toma and 2 other stories in the next release. And we'll come to an end. I don't want to spoil the story. And we have the back cover with the third classics, the side and the front cover. Today we have a look at Art 9 comics, Phantom die Klassiker number 3, Phantom the Classics, with Little Toma, The Prisoner of the Himalayas, and Adventure in Algiers in German, Kleiner Toma, Der Gefangene des Himalaya, Abenteuer in Algier. Art 9 comics always comes sealed. And plastic shrink foil, and we have 145 pages for 21 euros. And Art 9 comics, some informations about the stories in this book. And we have Little Toma, and Little Toma was also released in Germany from Möwig Verlag, Sonderheft number 8, special magazine number 8, long time ago, but I show you some pages. I like the artwork and the comics very much from Möwig Verlag, and we see some sites here. Quick look. Another quick look. And it's a very cool, detailed and crisp and clear page. They put much love in it for do the work and with the comics here from Art 9. It's a Austria release, not Germany, but they did always a great job. I like the comic very much. The books are cool. It's fun to read. We have Little Toma reprints in Argentina, Australia, Austria now, Brazil, Finland, France, Italy, New Zealand, Norway, Spain, Sweden, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States, and the former Yugoslavia. And I love to read the old stories, really. The old times was very, very cool. And it's awesome that they release the old comics like they was. They do a very nice job, that they have really the flair of the old days. I like it very, very much. And we're at page 50 now. Like I said, it's a really, really cool art. I like the story and the comics from Art9 very, very well. The paper is good quality. And now we have daily story number 5, Der Gefangene des Himalaya, The Prisoner of the Himalayas, which I show you here. Also very, very clear and nice and crisp story, comic, art. It's awesome. Can't believe it's about 100 years old now. It's really, really cool. 90 years old now. Also a very, very nice story from the old days. I like it very much. It's fun to read for me. And we have a lot of stuff in Germany to read, and we have reprints in Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Denmark, Finland, France, Italy, Mexico, Portugal, New Zealand, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, United States, and the former Yugoslavia. And it's great that I can read, or we can read in German, these old classics too. It's a long story, by the way. We are at 120 pages now. And for $21 it's really, really cool. Then the last daily story, number 6, Abenteuer in Algier, the adventure in Algiers. Again, it's really, really cool. I like the Ray Moore art very much. And like I said before, Art9 do a really good job. And the next book should come out in January 2026. Today we have a look at Zack edition, Lee Fawkes Phantom from Bernd Frenz and Carlos Petrazzini and Heiner Bade. The magazine has 56 pages and costs 16 euros. We have Deadly Dinosaurs, and it's only released in Sweden and now in Germany. I show you the art, and it's a cool story, cool to read about some dinosaurs. Don't want to spoil the story, but like I said, it's really cool. The paper is glossy and the printing is very sharp, and the story is nice to read, and it makes a lot of fun to read. I show you the next story, Dark Smoke over Bengali, dunkler Rauch über Bengala. and it's a 22 Phantomen story with art from Heiner Bade. And I show you the art here. And it's 16 euros for 56 pages. It's a really cool deal. It's fun to read. And the Sack edition creators make a good job. Then we have the cover from Henrik Sahlström and the Dark Smoke over Bengali cover from Luca Erbeta. Some informations about the stories, comics, and how Bernd Frenz came to the stories in this magazine. And the last page with some more information that Australia have the Bernd Frenz story also in May 25, and the back cover, the side view, and like always, thank you very much for watching.
Today we are talking about The Phantom #3 from Mad Cave Studios. This was written by Ray Fox with art and colors by Russell Olson, letters by Taylor Esposito, and a cover by Freddie Williams II. Jumping into this, if you remember the last two issues where we left off, Garan was having a tense conversation with Asif Singh, the leader of the Singh Brotherhood, in his home. They were going back and forth while the Phantom was trying to neutralize all of the Singh foot soldiers who were basically holding the town hostage, the Bandar village. So in this issue, we leap right in the action. We start with this big action shot of the Phantom. We're at his point of view of his back as he's leaping forward onto this vehicle with the Singh foot soldiers. Now, they have stolen medicine, and so that's his mission right now, is to get this medicine back because it is crucial to the community, and the Singh Brotherhood want to take it for themselves. This is one of the valuables they're trying to repay themselves with because they had a loss with their drug smuggling operation. So it's just an excuse to enrich themselves and take over the village. But the Phantom is on a time clock here. This opening brings us back to the super quick points of what was going on. One of the things I like here that's introduced in these first couple pages is the Phantom is thinking about Diana in this one. So there's no clue where on the timeline this takes place, if it is part of the core Phantom timeline or if it's its own timeline. I'm of the mind that this is its own timeline. But, we know quite early on that, Phantom and Diana are together. They're an item. They're very much in love. Whether they're married or not remains to be seen. We don't know anything about, the children. If there are any, it seems like likely not. But we have this nice action opener with a lot of great monologuing from the Phantom here. I really like, this. It kind of reminds me of like an Indiana Jones film or something. The paneling and the art here is really cool with the Phantom leaping at this vehicle and trying to hold on, and he's using his wits. The tree takes out the guard in the vehicle. But the one thing this issue does really well, especially in the art department, is this idea of action and consequence here. So, this vehicle speeding through the jungle, it's bumping around. The man hits a branch, that medicine fridge goes flying from the vehicle. So the Phantom, who's been hanging on for dear life, has to leap into action and grab it here. And he uses it to defend himself, too, at the same token, because the driver has a gun and is turning around firing at him. So it is very beat for beat, real fast-paced, tense, and of course, Phantom tries to call back and say, hey, you're not watching out. And so this guy sees a tree. But before we can see the finale of that, we kind of cut to this woman sitting in a helicopter here, just hanging out. She has a book in her hand. So there's a sense of humor throughout all of this tension. It really does feel like an old adventure story or a serial here. You know, she's reading, and then we see the car, the consequence from that last, panel on the previous page go flying by as the Phantom and the Sing foot soldier are, kind of battling it out in the vehicle. We learn that this woman is part of the Sky Band. So another thing that this series does that's kind of great, to kick us off is our first villains are the Sing Brotherhood straight out of the original Phantom newspaper strip story. And now we get the Sky Band thrown into the mix. Are they working with the Sing Brotherhood? That's not necessarily clear. We know, that she is a part of a transport here. They're on a transport mission, at least this Sky Band member right here. But we don't know if that means they're working for the Sing Brotherhood. It very well could be, or it could be a totally unrelated jungle operation. Not really explicitly stated, but it's cool that the villains from the second Phantom newspaper strip story are full front and center here. And so we cut back to inside the vehicle. Phantom and this guy are battling it out. He dispatches the guy. The vehicle hits a stump and goes flying, and that medicine fridge, launches out of the vehicle. One of the things that I do say kind of, I'm a little stickler on or picky about this issue is you'll notice as we go through the panels, the Phantom's proportions in these earlier panels, he's like a brick, he's a tank. But they kind of change later where he's a little more slender. Obviously he's got a lot of musculature and he's a really built, hero figure here. And some of the poses I'm a little, like this, him leaping out here with his arms up. I like the idea of this, half-page panel here, but I'm not too crazy about the position. It seems a little awkward to me. But, hey, we'll roll with it. Everything's been great so far. The fridge lands. The Phantom opens it up. Everything has been smashed to bits. If you can't see very clearly, it's right in here. There's a lot of shattered bottles in here. And the Phantom goes ahead and leaves his mark on this member of the Sing Brotherhood. This actually comes into play, and this plays into the whole idea of actions have consequences because, this fridge was being rocked around, launched around, Phantom used it as a shield at one point, and now the precious medicine that needed to stay cold in there has been mostly destroyed. We go back to what Garon's doing. He's having a conversation with Asif Singh, and Asif, in the last issue, he was very much, he had the upper hand, and his dialogue really showed it. He has a big ego, very full of himself. Here, he's laughing about this idea of the Phantom because that's what Garon told him in literally the last couple of panels of the last issue. And so, Singh is laughing it off, basically saying the Phantom is some deluded enemy of his grandfathers and uncles from decades ago. So there is an awareness, but these two have not met proper yet, Asif Singh and the Phantom. One of the things I want to call out in this section here is this, we saw the skull mark in the last page. You have this skull here with the horns and the shadowing of the horns here. And it's this playing of light and darkness here. Garon, he's, there's one beam of light coming at him and there's darkness all around him. The shadow play here is actually pretty interesting. It helps with the tension, I think, but it kind of casts this danger around Garon, helps build some of this tension during a talking sequence. And I'd like to call that out because I do think that is pretty cool. But, Asif gets up, he thinks they're done, he's going to go out into the village, and as he's leaving into the village, he gets word that, something's up. A lot of his dudes have been taken out. So this is where, again, actions have consequences. On the villain front, our villain very much is a, realistic figure who has his own goals and his own things he's doing. One of the things I love about this is that the villain adapts and reacts. And so there's a lot of comics you might read where the villain has a fully established base and an army, and it's just the hero kind of punching through the level. If it was like a video game or something, just kind of beating through the level just to get to the final boss. That is really not the case here. Everyone is doing something. The one thing this creative team does very well that captures the spirit of the Phantom is every person, whether they're a henchman or they're a big villain or the Phantom or Garon or a Bandar villager, is a person who has some kind of effect on their surroundings. And so, each henchman that the Phantom has been fighting, it has been a battle for the most part. Some he's dispatched quickly, but he's had to think about each one and plot it out. In this case, Asif is reacting. He's going to up the ante here. He doesn't believe it's the Phantom. He thinks it's some lunatic, and so he's kind of losing it. But this is when he starts to up the ante on the Sing side. So meanwhile, all this going on, that guy who was in the vehicle that was injured by the Phantom, he finds his way over to the Skybands, and she basically kicks him out because she sees the mark on his face, that skull mark. She's like, no, we're not getting involved with the Phantom. She's just sticking to her mission. She does report all this back to whoever's in leadership of the Skyband at this time. Likely will be someone either, the leader we saw in the second strip series, or maybe someone related to that leader. Who knows how they're going to play it. Could go anyway. But we go back to Garan, and this is where those horns come back into play. I do want to call that out right here. But Garan is, I wouldn't say taunting this guard, but definitely, laying it on thick of what's going to happen, and trying to at first convince him, I think, genuinely, but that doesn't work. And so Garan, leaps into action on this next page. And it's kind of cool that, he's a fighter with some great skill as well. We can see him just leaping in, and kneeing this guy and then, roping his arm around his neck, kind of cool. And again, horns up here as well. So it's kind of throughout this whole section here, these horns keep coming back. The Phantom pulls out a couple vials of medicine, so there's still, something left, and he's got to take it to a fridge, puts it in his pocket. He knows he has to go back to the village, which is straight into the heart of danger. And then that humor, like I mentioned before, does kind of come in here. We have this roof here where there's guard, and there's this bug. It's probably very hard to see it in the camera. Landing on this guard's nose, he, gets the bug, but then there's the Phantom in the background. The Phantom drops off this serum and asks this villager to put it in the fridge. They're whispering because, at this point, Asif has ordered everyone to stay in their houses. If anyone leaves, they're going to get shot. Meanwhile, some of the guards have been found, and that have been dispatched and brought down. The Phantom is continuing to, circle the village, thinking about Diana again, and his dinner he can come home to when he gets there. And Asif is cutting the power. That's the next development. And then a super villainous action will be coming up in a second, that is going to really put things at risk and leave us on a cliffhanger for the next issue. We see, before that Sing Brotherhood is now rounding up the children. The Phantom notes that they use children for, future henchmen. They're going to get conscripted into service possibly. And it's also, another hostage situation they can have against the Bandar village and the villagers here. And then Asif calls this other henchman into, service, basically saying, hey, pick a house at random. I don't care whose house it is. I need you to barricade it and set it on fire. And this is really where we're going to be left with is, Asif still doesn't believe it's the Phantom, but he's going to call the Phantom out. He's yelling out to the jungles. He knows the Phantom's in the trees. The Phantom right now is currently assessing the sniper situation around the village, understands that there's going to be snipers kind of positioned around to guard the children and, guard each other. And then we cut to some villagers in their house, and their house is being boarded up, and here's someone putting a Molotov cocktail together. And this is kind of an inciting incident. We see this guy ready to throw this Molotov cocktail, and there's the Phantom in the background reaching out. And the shadows are just cascading over everything except that plume of, fire coming from the end of the rag. So as we saw with the last issue, in the back, there is kind of a secrets of the creative team where we get to see the layout process and then the inkings and the colors, which is pretty neat. And of course, we get an ad for the Phantom game, which finally dropped on Xbox now, so it's now available on all systems. And then Phantom 2040, which is on Comics Kingdom, and we are also reviewing at Chronicle Chamber. Overall, I really liked this episode. I think the art is great. The paneling is fantastic. The action is very tense. I do have issues with some of the proportions of the Phantom throughout this. I feel like he's thinner in some panels and much wider in other panels. And part of it might just be the difficulty of the movement of this character. Like, it's very, he moves a lot. He's leaping, he's climbing, he's swinging. So, it seems like getting those proportions to kind of match the rest of the issue is a bit of a struggle, but the coloring is great. The lighting and shadowing is, fantastic. I do like the lettering, and I do like the fact that each person in here who takes an action, there is a direct consequence to that action. So it really feels like a well thought out, well plotted adventure story, which actually is very difficult to come by, especially if you read a lot of comic books and everything. The only other gripe I have, and this just harkens back to the first issue in this new series, is we got to see Asif Singh's internal monologue. Now, sure, he's talked a lot now, but I loved the duality of the Phantom's inner monologue and then Asif Singh's inner monologue, and kind of those things dueling back and forth with the purple and white and then the red and black. It was kind of a cool good versus evil, good guy versus bad guy, kind of a battle of the minds here, or just laying out who everyone is. And it's been absent, so I miss that. I wish it would come back. I think it's a really cool feature. Defenders of the Earth, Dark Destiny issue 1. For those who came late, this is the follow-up to the 8-issue Defenders of the Earth miniseries from Mad Cave Studios, which in itself was a reboot, sequel, follow-up to the 80s Defenders of the Earth 4-issue miniseries that was released by Marvel under one of their other comic book labels. Mark Santucci did the cover here, and honestly, I wanted to highlight that because I love this cover. This is probably one of my favorite things about the book, to have, our heroes, Lothar, Phantom, Flash Gordon, and Mandrake the Magician, tied to torches, getting ready to be burned alive by the people of Mongo. You can see in the background the Hawkmen are holding torches. It's a really cool intro. I really like the art here. I like that he doesn't have his classic underwear. It's more of the Defender suit, but I feel like it's a classical look for the Phantom here. You open it up, you could see that Dan DiDio, who wrote the last series, continues writing here. Wancho and Carlos Manguel, the colorist and letterer, join him as well from the previous series. We have a new artist, though. Last series was Jim Calafiore, primarily. This series is Alex Sanchez with the art. So the art looks very different, and it might be a point of contention for readers. I know it kind of is for me, and we'll get into that. One of the things I do like, the last page did have a brief synopsis of what happened. This page gives us a who's who with the characters to remind everybody of the important players, including, our mains, their children, Dale Zuffy, and then the villains that were featured last time around. Ming was dead, but Crotan certainly was a major player, and so was Kurt Walker, Phantom's brother in this universe who turns to evil. So we have this, 4 square that we start off with. Basically, gives us an introduction of who our characters are and kind of clues us into what we're going to be revealed on the first full page spread here of them tied to torches, being held in some kind of tribunal, and someone calling to burn them now. And here's Flash Gordon, regretting their decision to come here. For those who need a refresher, they came here because they heard Crotan had Dale Arden's body on Mongo. And so Princess Castra and Octon, who were working for Crotan, left at the end of the previous series to come back to Mongo, assumedly with Dale's body in tow. So you have this neat opener. I actually really like this piece with their backs, us seeing, these people screaming for their deaths. I do like, from behind, I like kind of this classic look of the characters. This Flash Gordon suit is a little different than we saw him in the previous one. And the way Alex Sanchez draws Phantom's costume, it feels very old-timey. And with the art from Wancho, the coloring from Wancho, the purple really pops. And so I do appreciate that. And Mandrake actually looks very classical with the line work here, too. For those who are Flash Gordon fans, I think you'll appreciate this issue more so than Phantom fans. This is very Flash Gordon centric. I mean, obviously we're on Mongo, which is the planet Flash Gordon, arrives on in his series, and is the planet that Ming ruled over. Right off the bat, we get mention of Prince Thun, who's one of the Lion Men. And if you are unfamiliar, Prince Thun is like basically Flash Gordon's first friend on Mongo. Harkens way back to the newspaper strips from the 1934 or 35. I can't remember the year right now, but that's how old Prince Thun is. His first ally, loyal to Flash pretty consistently. And here they are, Prince Thun stepping up, trying to call for, their safety, whereas the king here wants to kill Flash and, bring peace to the world. Basically, Crotan got safe haven on Earth. They blame Flash for that because in the background he was destroying Mongo and ripping it apart, and they thought Flash was the one basically letting Crotan run free and do these things, when in reality Crotan was manipulating everybody. He had Flash drugged and was trying to turn Earth into his own army, which was basically the 8 issues of Defenders of the Earth. So they're arguing. Mandrake taunts the Lion Man, gets smacked across the face, and then while the torturers are getting ready to burn everything, the Hawkmen come in, and this is where your mileage will vary. The art here, Alex Sanchez has done a lot of work over the years for a lot of the major players. He's a lot of major characters people love. He's touched, and different degrees. I actually enjoy a lot of his art outside of this. I think what we're seeing here is Wancho's a great colorist. Alex Sanchez is a pretty good artist. We're seeing a disagreement between artist and colorist. It just doesn't quite match up and gel as well. I feel like with this coloring work, we get kind of a lumpy looking Phantom here. I'm going to call attention to this panel right here. I'm not quite keen on his face. He feels like there's way too many lines around the Phantom's face. It's a depiction I haven't really seen before. I appreciate the attempt to go very old school, but the shape here of the Phantom, I don't know, it doesn't fit with me. I can't say I'm too keen on Lothar's face either. I actually do enjoy this close-up of Flash Gordon here on the opposite end. I feel like the art really is kind of a mixed bag, this issue, with that, what I relayed about the coloring and the artwork kind of at a disagreement there. Because there are some cool panels, and I think the story is actually firing on all cylinders here. This is a great introductory issue if you're just paying attention to the story. So anyways, the Hawkmen come down. They want Flash for themselves, and they sweep them away. It's King Volton, who is another on-again, off-again ally of Flash. He started off as a villain, then became an ally, and most depictions he is portrayed as an ally. But basically, the rub here is, as they're carrying our defenders off, that whoever kills Flash gets to be king of Mongo. And so Voltan does not want anyone else ruling over the Hawkmen, so he is going to take Flash away and kill him himself. But before he can do that, all the defenders break free and jump into the ocean. When Mandrake was knocked out, a bag was put over his head, so we don't see his face, we just see this falling figure. But of course, Mandrake is an illusionist. They'd remind us that in the beginning of this issue, and we will see why shortly, because as our heroes fall into the water, a submarine shows up, and it's a submarine belonging to the shark people, who are another race on Mongo. One of the things I love about this shot right here is, for old-timey Flash Gordon fans, a lot of the technology on Mongo is just a lot of the technology we had at the time. Tanks, submarines, there's a lot of sword and shield type elements incorporated into this industrial world as well. It really depends on what part of the planet you're going on. But they swim towards this submarine, and it turns out it's being manned by Mandrake, and the actual Mandrake they think they have is Prince Thun. So That was his illusion trick there, was to get their ally on board with them. So now 4 becomes 5. Meanwhile, back on Earth, we see what LJ, Rick Gordon, and Jeddah are up to. Kashin is monitoring them from their base and Mandrake's mansion. While they check out this rig, and there's this really awful weather that is totally isolated around this rig. So there's something going on with the weather pattern here. They are looking for the gateway that Castra and Octon used to get back to Mongo, as well as clues where Dale Arden might have been when she was on Earth. And so, the Dynek X, Dale Arden, is working with Kashin to help them get a layout of this facility, and he's monitoring things and telling, the crew what they should look out for, that they, this is really where all roads lead. Going back to that old-timey look, I actually do like this close-up of Jeddah here with the very old-fashioned phantom mask. I think it's kind of neat, with the water and the rain coming down. It's very expressive. Again, like I said, this is very, hit or miss on the art. As much as I can point out things I enjoy, there is always another panel that I really don't like. A couple panels ago, we had Flash Gordon's changing face. I did not point that out, but if you read this issue, you'll kind of know that he has one look, and then it seems like he adopts a different look. It almost looks like a different character based on the perspective we're looking at Flash from. And I know, with this type of detail, it could be difficult, but as a reader, it's a little bit frustrating. That said, we get to the, cliffhanger, or one of the 2 cliffhangers for this issue, where they get on the rig and they find out that inside the rig is Endama, the weather demon. Now, if you've watched Defenders of the Earth, even only a couple episodes, in one of the first episodes of the cartoon series, Kurt Walker is Endama, the weather demon. That is, his role. He is gifted those powers, and he uses them to fight the Phantom. So now we know that Kurt is back. He is not dead after he got his comeuppance at the end of, or midway through the last series. We go back to our main crew. They're looking for a port where they can hide out. Actually, this is a panel where Flash Gordon's face seems to change, and I really don't like it. If you look at like this down here, and then this up here, can't say I'm too fond of the proportions. And really, again, every time you get a close-up of the Phantom, it's almost like Emperor Palpatine or something is behind that mask. Can't say I'm crazy about that. But they're going to this neutral port where they could hide out, but surprise, surprise, turns out their enemies are already there. And so we know that the next issue is going to be the trial of Flash Gordon, which we can expect that to come out in a month. It also has a cool cover here. I really appreciate this look. The covers are honestly great. I'm here for that. The rest of the issue, I hope things improve. Art-wise, I hope there's a little more consistency, and I really would like to see a toned-down Phantom at the top of my wish list here.
Awesome. Just going to jump in there, Steve, before we talk about the news, but thank you, Christian and Scott, for that. Now, if you are from one of those countries that's Steve made mention of in Norway, Sweden, France, Brazil, etc., if you are wanting to review some of these comics, but you can't afford to buy them, or you don't know how to buy them, or if there's any limitations that you are like, I wouldn't mind doing this, but I'm not sure about this or something, contact us anyway. Like, if you're like, I can't buy every single issue, contact us. I'm sure we can work something out. I get most of these issues anyway, so, that's not a problem. But, contact us, chroniclechamber@gmail.com. We're after people that have an interest in doing this. And, if money's an issue, just contact us.
So, on to the news. Our first bit of news is Tony Paul rewriting folklore again. Now, this, I think, keeps you up at night, Jam. You didn't like it when he did it with the chain, and I don't think you're going to like it when he's going to rewrite the first Phantom. Would I be? Or you're a little bit pessimistic. You were saying before how optimistic you are about 2026, but for this one, I think you lean towards a bit of pessimism. If our chats on the Messenger is anything to go by.
Look, Tony Paul, whether you like his stories or whether you don't like his stories, he has the keys to the sandbox. So he has been entrusted by King Features to create these stories. I believe Falk changed his own lore countless times. You know, whether it's the little things like the way that the good mark was done, whether you know, there's countless things, whether it was the first Phantom that married this girl or the second Phantom or whatever. He's had the same woman marrying fathers and daughters, I mean, fathers and sons, you know, so there's been a lot of continuity and lore that Leaf Fork has changed, whether it was Christopher Standish, whether it was Chris Walker or Kit Walker. So Leaf Fork was able to do that because he created the story. I believe that the keys have now been handed to Tony Paul. He has the ability to do that. I was a little bit pessimistic, and I don't know if the chain story was necessary. I understand why he did that, but I'm unsure if it was necessary. But you know, he has that ability to do that. With this story, I understand that story was, you know, look, again, I don't want to go down the political arm, but there was elements there that probably hasn't aged well. And so if Tony Paul's only going to retcon that or slightly change that and make it a little bit more palatable, for a lack of a better term, I understand that, and I will be happy to see what he does. I'm looking forward to seeing what Jeff does because I think his artwork will be amazing in this story. I think there is a lot of lore that could be established in this era, and I'm intrigued, and I think it will be good for newer fans to be able to read it and to be able to hopefully understand the fans more. Long story short, I'm willing to allow Tony DePaul, as if it's up to me, but I'm willing to allow Tony DePaul to
The
do
answer's to
this.
you. That's right, Joe.
Yeah, he does not. But I'm, you know, as a fan, let's see what he does. But you know, he better not ruin another story from my childhood.
I can't wait till he does. Um, yeah, I'm really looking forward.
It's going to be interesting getting the feedback from other fans who are maybe not as understanding as we go along with this story, which is starting in February.
Yeah. Um, Now, you'd assume this is going to involve like the Wasaka tribe, or are they in the newspaper, or are they a Team Phantom? And I'm
So they've
can't quite
only
remember.
so they've only been featured in a in a Leaf Fork story once, and they've
Mm.
been featured in a Moonstone story once or maybe twice, and they've featured in a Team Phantom in story once or twice as well. So like it's a very good point. You raise the issue of the Wasaka tribe is you've got the Banda, who are ferocious, the most feared tribe in all of Eastern Africa, are meek and mild, and it's taken a white guy to save them from that.
Mm.
So that's the, you know, that's the kind of the thing that does Tony DePaul include that, but make it more of the Banda had more to do with their freedom than it was just this random white guy? Or, you know, is that or is he going to explore 1536 more and reference that and kind of rejig it? Or is the whole story about the rejig? I think if the whole story is about the rejig, which is, I think it might be a little, I don't think that's needed, but I think if we get a cool story about the Phantom in 1536 and it's kind of a side story that's rejigged, I think that would fit with me a little bit easier.
Well, we'll wait till February and beyond to see what happens. I'm
Yes.
looking forward to it. I'm very much looking forward to it. Okay, the next point we've got is Billy Zane and the video game. So it's been holidays and you've been on a month's leave there, Jim. It's often a fun game to play. What if, often, if you're sitting on your own skull throne, it might be made of porcelain, or if you're in the shower or something like that, you just get your mind wanders and you just think, what if? And I was thinking about this the other day, what if? And it's kind of got me thinking because I like to game. I've actually, well, as anyone who's watching on YouTube will notice the different angles. I'm actually back inside the house rather than in the car for starters. But I've got two screens set up. I've done a little bit of a change up on my desk. I've actually got my old Nintendo sitting up here. So after I've done some work, I can get my Nintendo out and have a bit of a game. And when I say Nintendo, I've got the old school NES sitting up here. That's the controller for it.
It's got a cable.
Up on YouTube. Anyone? Yeah, it's got a cable. It's got a cable. None of this wireless stuff here. And it got me thinking about the latest Nintendo. Not the latest, but the Switch too. But the Switch is actually the highest number or biggest amount selling, what's the correct terminology there. It sold over 150 million units. We've got one in our house. Do you have one in your house there, Jim?
We got two Switches, both girls.
You got two Switches. Yeah, so Switches are everywhere. So you could be thinking, what if someone within Billy Zane's circle of friends has got a Switch. They might have kids, got a Switch. And they're searching around and say, oh, the Phantom. Oh, my mate Billy Zane was in that. Maybe I'll play the game. And so they play the game and they enjoy the game. I've got to tell Billy Zane about this. So they go around to Billy, they bring the Switch, and Billy plays the game. And he really enjoys it. And now Billy has done some game work before, some voiceover work. And so maybe he thinks, geez, I could do this. Maybe this is a good opportunity for me to, get into the video games again. And wouldn't that be good? Couldn't that happen? Could Billy Zane's people get in contact with Art of Play and, say, look, Billy's interested in, doing the voiceover for the Phantom game. How can we make this happen? Now, there's already a voiceover for it. So would it be downloadable content? So for those of us who've already got the game, what's this going to cost? Like Billy Zane's not just a nobody. He does have, a bit of cred. He's, got a movie out now or just in the last year about Marlon Brando. So he's still out there. So he's not going to come cheap. And the game doesn't cost that much in the scheme of things. How is Art of Play going to recoup their costs? Are they going to put the price up of the game? There's all this sort of stuff. And then you got King Features. Are they going to say, oh, look, yeah, Billy Zane can be part of the game. That'd be great. But now we want another license fee. There's lots of what ifs there. But geez, what if everything could just work and we could have the voice of the Phantom in the Phantom game? What do you reckon about that, Jim?
It'll be a great 90th anniversary. I've read the article. We had some fun photoshopping Billy Zane as the Phantom playing Xbox. I think we went through about the Switch. We went through about half a dozen, maybe even more than that, different ideas and stuff like that. But look, I enjoyed it. It's a great what if. Let's hope that it becomes a reality. And when it becomes a reality, we can all say, Steve, that is a great what if. You've definitely channeled your inner gypsy fortune teller skills there.
We'll see how it all goes. Okay, but one can wonder. So publisher news, what have we got now? Frew 2026 annual details will be reviewed in our January 26 comics and news. That's going to come out. Well, the annual will come out in 2 issues time. The latest issue that we've got out, we said it was the Christmas issue. There's usually a spacer between the Christmas issue and the annual. So that, at this stage, probably towards the end of January for that one.
And what's the theme? Yep. What's the theme for the Frew annual?
Oh, do we have that? Mandrake. Sorry, I forgot all about that. Mandrake. I had to think. I've been too busy going down rabbit holes with with computer games, and I forgot about Mandrake, and Jason Paulus again doing the cover for that one, and he was sharing that. Didn't I write the article for that one too?
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah, I should have had that. Oh, goodness gracious. So yes, we got Mandrake stories coming out in the 2026 annual. Um, any stories in particular that you're keen to see? Do you reckon we'll get the wedding story in there? Or
I don't know. We might, but um, we
I hope we
probably
don't, if I'm
will.
being honest.
Yeah, look, from from a fan who has 10 copies of it already, I would rather get maybe some of these Mandrake stories that featured a Phantom in them.
Mm,
But I think from a collectible point of view, it would have to include one of the versions of the wedding. But because there's the daily and the Sunday version,
yeah.
whichever one's shorter. That's how I would do it from a collectible point of view, yes. But from a selfish fan who's got 10 copies of it already, I would rather get something that I haven't read. And there's some interesting Mandrake stories where the Phantom comes and helps and stuff like that. There's one where Mandrake and Nadia get married, and then the Phantom actually rescues them from a bomb being dropped out of a helicopter. So
Oh, cool. That'd be all right.
yeah, and some of that art's from Fred Fredericks and as well, who obviously has drawn the Phantom in the newspaper stories, but also in the Defenders of the Earth 1985 to 6 comics series as well.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, from memory, like Mandrake's there at the wedding, but he doesn't really have a big
Yeah,
part. So that's why I'd be saying we can do without that story.
yeah.
What else we got going? Phantom Best Adventure Stories poll is now open.
Every year, Phantom does a poll for voting on the best cover and the best story. So the best story is now live, and it ends around May, end of or April, Aprilish, I think from memory. You can go onto their website, you can vote for it. Now, what's interesting about this is the editorial team, not only for Phantom Men, but also for Frew, actually look at these results and it and it gives them information on Frew whether to include this story in their publishing schedule, or Phantom Men whether they're going to get these creators to go again and stuff like that. So it's worth voting. There is prizes to be won. They do publish these prizes outside of Sweden and Scandinavia. I've actually received some. I won a prize draw maybe probably a dozen years ago. So they do ship outside of the Scandinavian countries as well. So go vote, and yeah, and hopefully yeah, your story wins.
Yeah, and as I say, election time, vote early, vote often. Okay. There's a new German comic series coming out, featuring, I'm going to muck up this name, Haina Bade.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, so look, I've always enjoyed some of his stories. We got an awesome interview with him on our website. So there's a huge renaissance of German comics, German fandom comics at the moment. Christian, our reviewer, reviews them from ECR, Art Comics, Zuzbestan Comics, the Wick series, Zach series, which is just finished. And these are going to be starting in the new year. I think it's April, I think there's going to be 6 volumes. You can get a soft cover, a hardcover album. They do ship outside of Germany. I've already contacted them. I've organizing some to be shipped to me. Christian will be reviewing them. So Hinyabade's actually German. So for many fans, this will be the first time they would have seen his stories from Germany, and most of these stories have never been published in Germany previously as well. So look, yeah, it's great to see the Phantom making waves in Germany.
Excellent. Now we can head over to Ireland, and the task force annual has sold out. The 2025 annual, which was published, I think, in December, or ready
Yes.
for December, has sold out. But for those who've missed out, we believe there will be a second printing in that's in the new in 2026. But there is a digital version that you can get anyway if you can't hold out for the physical one.
Yeah. Look, I haven't got my copy yet. When I get my copy, I'll do a review on it. If there's someone out there that wants to do a review on it beforehand, contact us, and more than happy to feature your review instead of mine.
Very good. Now, the annual, it has the Skull and Jaw story, which is the 267th Phantom Daily story, written by Tony DePaul, and with art by Mike Manley. And the annual also includes stories of Flash Gordon, Mandrake, Popeye, Slylock Fox, Dennis the Menace, Hagar the Horrible, and Prince Valiant. So if you're a fan of any of those other characters, check it out, as well as the Phantom, of course. Someone has passed away in the Phantom world there, Germ.
Yeah, so the actor Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa,
Yeah.
I apologize with the mispronunciation of that. He's the actor who played the Kabai Sang in the Phantom movie. Passed away in December. I think it was the 4th or the 5th of December from memory. Look, always sad news. He was in Mortal Kombat. He was in
Shang
quite a
Tsung
lot
in
of
Mortal Kombat, wasn't he?
yeah, in a lot of movies, usually played the bad guys, which kind of typecast in that. But he he every movie that I've seen him in, he's always gone that little bit extra. Like you can tell he's enjoyed playing the bad guy, and he was very charismatic in his bad guy depictions.
Yes. All right. Very good. We've got some prize draws. What's going on here with these prize draws, Germ?
Yeah, so look, I'm just going to share the screen. So we're going to have 2 prize draws actually. So actually, before I share the screen, so we had a couple of social media posts on Saturday Morning Cards, which is the t-shirt that you're wearing as well.
Hey.
So we had some. So we asked for people's opinions whether they would like to see a series 2 from the series 1 that has come out in. When did series 1 come out? Like to believe it was around June,
in 2025.
July. Yeah, 2025, June, July. So now I just want to say thanks to everyone who commented on that one. There was also a New Year's Eve post as well, which we've included some of the people that have added in there as well. Now, the competition is you're going to have a choice of one of 2 of these. These are artist-proof cards done by Alex Webb, which were 4 Saturday Morning Cards. So these are the last 2 that we have in stock. These are original artworks, one of one. Pretty awesome design. So we're going to ship these off to the winners for free. Now, just so you're aware, when we bit of a peek behind the curtain, when we ask for feedback, the creator of Saturday Morning Cards actually read and made notes of all those feedback. So if you were commenting on Reddit, if you were commenting on Facebook, Instagram, or you sent us an email and stuff like that, your name has been entered in there. And then the second prize draw we're going to do is going to be our seasonal Patreon. Now we've got these stickers from the Finnish website. I can't remember the name of it. But these are stickers, and let's be honest, they don't actually ship this stuff outside of Finland. So if you're a fan not in Finland, the only chance you probably get these is by being a Patreon, and being in the prize draw for these. So we've got 4 designs. So we're going to have 2 winners, and each Patreon winner will get 2 of these, all mailed to them, all for free. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share the screen. I can see Steve going, how come my name's not included in that?
Yeah.
So
A couple of stickers I wouldn't mind. Yeah.
yeah. So these are going to be for the art cards. So we've got people here. So we've, as you can see here, so we'll just scroll down. We've got the first winner will be Pirate Dave and Roscoe. Pirate Dave and Roscoe have won one of these cards each. We will send them over to you. So congratulations.
Does Pirate Dave have a skull mark on his jaw?
I don't know, but he is a character, Pirate Dave. He is. I'm just going to write these down so I don't forget it. Pirate Dave and Roscoe art cards, and then he's over on Reddit. I've had some interesting discussions with Pirate Dave. So now we're going for the Patreon prize draws. So we have Ian Macaulay and John Cookson. Oh, John, you finally won something. Congratulations, John. So we will send those off to you guys. So thank you for all our Patreons. Basically, our Patreons are people that sponsor us, help us. They give us a couple of dollars every month, ranging from $1 to a little bit more, which just allows us to be able to pay for stuff, hosting podcasts, hosting websites, all this type of stuff. It all costs money. And it just basically, it means that we don't have to dip in our own pocket as much, which means our wives doesn't get as angry with us when she goes, how come you're paying for fandom stuff and you're also paying for this as well? So we do appreciate it, and it means we can do things as well. So yeah, really appreciate everyone's support. So huge congratulations to Pirate Dave, to Roscoe, to Ian, and to John.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Well, that's a happy note to end on, I think. Yeah, so I'll tell you what, keep an eye out on our website, chroniclechamber.com, or our social media pages for any of the other latest news as it comes about. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your feedback and opinions on our social media, or over at our YouTube channel where you might have been just watching this for the last couple of hours. Now, you can subscribe to us via YouTube or through your favourite podcast apps, including iTunes or Spotify. Rightio, Jerm, I think that's it. Happy New Year and happy fantoming, mate.
Thank you. Happy New Year and happy fantoming to everyone as well. Stay safe.
The phantom's always there, but you won't find the phantom. He finds